Happy New Year, everyone. Thanks for joining me on Talk the Walk. I'm Sarah Wong. In many ways, 2021 was defined and shaped by the coronavirus pandemic. But beyond sickness and solitude, we also witnessed milestones and embraced changes. Joining us today to look back on 2021 and forward to 2022 is Mr. Chip Tsao. Welcome back to Talk the Walk, sir. Thank you very much for making time for us.
Hello, thank you very much. It's nice talking to you. Happy New Year to you and everyone.
I'm so glad to hear that, Mr. Tsao. Now, after the season to be jolly, now many of us, including myself, have reached the season of reckoning, I would say. Do you feel the same? Have you encountered anything out of ordinary in your days in Britain?
Well, it's a London. I feel a little bit strange because we are in the globalization era, and I found London more liberal, more open, and more free. Very different from Europe, where everyone is told to wear masks in supermarkets, indoors, in restaurants and bars. Whereas in London, well, you can choose to wear a mask and you can choose not to wear one. Right? So I don't know, it may be the last land of this kind of total freedom. Right?
I think people in the United States will beg to differ. They always think that they have the land of most freedom in the world, and sometimes a little bit of more freedom could cause a lot of trouble, in my opinion, of course. Now, when we look back at 2021, the whole year just flew by. What do you think is the biggest change that defined, don't not say the biggest, like top 3 events that defined the past year?
Well, I think undoubtedly, I think this would be the consensus of the whole world. That would be the COVID, right? The pandemic is still haunting around. It's not going yet. And there's no sign that it may just go off very soon in the coming new year. I think that's the number one great event, right?
Of course.
But number 2 is the implementation of the national security law in Hong Kong, which is a piece of jigsaw of the whole grand picture, right? And number 3, I think it would be the presidency, the new presidency of Joe Biden in America, change the style of leadership of White House in the past 4 years, right? Some of its effects have come out, and some not yet. So I think number 3, it would be the alleged rumor that the dominance of the United States could be on a bit of a decline, right? So these 3 incidents or 3 issues, as a Hong Kong citizen now residing in London, would be the 3 main issues that marked 2020 for me. Right?
Yeah, well, your story obviously is one of the biggest changes that underpinned the society of Hong Kong in the past year, because a lot of Hong Kong, the younger generations, would like to immigrate, would like to leave Hong Kong after the imposition of the national security law and all those drastic changes to the society and our familiar way of living in the society of Hong Kong. Now, to me personally, I think inside Hong Kong, the top 3 events of mine would be, the achievements we've obtained during the Tokyo Olympics. I think that's quite inspiring. The Legislative Council elections in December, that speaks for, I think, for a different picture and different kind of story. And also for me, the most touching part is all the June 4th related incidents that happened, developments that happened in the past week. Because I myself grew up on mainland China, I didn't acquire this kind of knowledge about June 4th in school. And basically, all I know about the event is after I came to Hong Kong, that's approximately 7 years ago. So that have a little bit markered on me. Now, speaking on Hong Kong's development, I recently, watched a video interview of the chief executive, right, a couple months ago, calling her Hong Kong's comeback queen. Now, how do you evaluate the final year of Carrie Lam's current term in office, and how do you see her chance for re-election?
I think her chance of getting re-elected is very low. Right?
How's that?
I would say less than 10%, right? But I wouldn't say, I wouldn't make any absolute prediction because last year it's been underpinned or marked by too many black swans, right? And dramatic twists and turns, right? I think the main problem in Hong Kong is this place is running out of candidates for the job of the chief executive. Very few under this climate would like to put forward his or her name. And there are fewer candidates that the Chinese government would fully trust. And under the national security law, I think it is a bit of a deterrence to anyone who would like to come out to come out for election. So maybe Carrie Lam feels a little bit complacent that Beijing would be left with no choice but to get her in for another 5 years, right? But because nobody knows what's going on in Beijing at the moment, there are so many unknown factors, so many things going on. So time is running out. We are in New Year. According to the basic law, the so-called election for the chief executive would have been held in the coming March, right? Mm-hmm. Normally, candidates would have made it clear, at least in October, right? But so far, all quiet. Everyone is waiting for the signal from Beijing, so it's a little bit chilly, right?
Why is this delay, and what is Beijing looking for that they're not seeing right now?
It's a different Beijing now, right? It's a different Beijing from 10 years ago, right? The Beijing 10 years ago was a kind of autocracy. Decisions were made collectively. And I think the Beijing about 10 years ago was the kind of Beijing run by the Shanghai-based consortium. Now, it is being ruled by one person, right? And that person has been very busy to make too many decisions. And I don't think the candidacy for the next Hong Kong chief executive has come into his horizon yet.
What do you think the pandemic, the economic and political situation in China speak to you about the Communist Party and the president's grip on power? And how likely is that going to evolve before we reach the 20th National Party Congress in October?
It's going to be a watershed. That is going to confirm the re-election, at least, of the present leader, Xi Jinping, right? But I think signs have emerged in the recent weeks that there have been a bit of disagreements over how China should be run, how far free market economy should be allowed, and Xiaoping's reform and open door policy, how it should be concluded. So there are a lot of unknown factors going on in Beijing, and including the list of members of the Standing Committee of the Communist Party Politburo, right? So there's so many undecided questions. So Hong Kong is only one of them, right, to the leadership of Beijing. I think, I don't know, well, economy, we have very little idea because Hong Kong's reporters are not being allowed to get into Beijing to do much of the news coverage. There are cities, like Xi'an, locked down totally, but Shanghai seems to be operated quite well because it's managed by a rather different municipal government. Right now, China is full of contradictions, is full of all sort of news. Some of them are fake, some of them are we yet, right?
Yeah, well, we know China is a vast place, and when there's like centralized power in such a vast place, there's going to be frictions underneath. Well, we'll pick up the discussion after the break. Stay with us.